Hello, welcome to Flynn's Arcade. This is my video about the worst dads of Adult Swim. For the past couple of years, I have noticed this picture of Jonas of the Venture Bros, Clay from Orel, the Reverend Wartooth from Metalocalypse, and Carl's dad from Aquatine Hunger Force.
Oh jeez, look at the time!
Showing up on Adult Swim fan groups on and around Father's Day. So to celebrate the occasion, I thought I would do a deep dive into the lives and motivations of the worst dads of Adult Swim.
Flynn's Arcade.
In this video, I'm going to talk about the dads and rank and compare them in order of awfulness. Jonas Venture is the father of Dr. Venture and JJ, and potentially the father of Dr. Tara Quinn. And considering his lifestyle, there may be even more illegitimate ventures walking the earth.
Hello, Rusty!
Hello, Father!
Because he didn't raise JJ or Tara, and died before his grandsons Hank and Dean were born, I am mostly going to consider his relationship with Dr. Venture, who was also known as Rusty. Dr. Venture rarely had anything positive to say about his dad, and it's unsurprising when we learn about his terrible upbringing. Young Rusty was homeschooled and rarely met any kids his own age, which bothered him considerably, but not enough to break the cycle by sending his own kids to school. He was also the star of the Rusty Venture cartoon,
Rusty Venture, brought to you by smoking,
which gave him all the psychological problems associated with being an ex-child star. But far worse was his exposure to Jonas's adventurous lifestyle.
That boy is gonna see somebody die, and if he doesn't want it to be his father, he's got to pull that trigger.
Jonas views his son as his proudest creation, and he regularly did things like take him to space and on dangerous missions. Because of his recklessness, the Dr. Venture we see today isn't even the original. In typical Venture fashion, he died and was resurrected using Jonas's cloning technology many times. In one of Jonas's lowest moments, he provided Rusty with talking therapy.
And then I get kidnapped by grown-ups. And I'm not even sure I want to be a super scientist when I grow up anyway. But I feel all this pressure because of my It feels weird telling you all this stuff.
Remember, Rusty, in here I'm your doctor, not your father.
But he just used this as an opportunity to brace his young son for not valuing the opportunities that he offered him. However, it is this conversation which makes me think that Jonas is the least worst dad on the list. Jonas was callous, but he was never actively cruel to his son. He was also a complete narcissist, so he honestly couldn't conceive why Rusty wouldn't want to go on adventures with him. He also managed to set young Rusty up with a career in super science, and whilst it wasn't the career he wanted, Rusty was more interested in creative pursuits. It was a reasonably lucrative job. He also provided him with a support network in the form of Team Venture.
Go Team Venture!
And after Jonas's death, his former colleagues remained an important part of his son's life, and Rusty cared about them sufficiently to name them as Hank and Dean's godparents. So, whilst Jonas was indeed an awful father, he could have been a lot worse. Clay is the father of Orel Puppington and the stepfather of Orel's half-brother Shapey. He is married to Berber and has an on-off relationship with Orel's sports teacher Danielle. He is also the mayor of Moralton. During the run of the show, we see the gradual corruption in his character, and even Orel eventually turns against him. Clay has a problem with alcohol. He also has problems at home. He does not get on well with Berber, and he's aware that Shapey isn't his biological son, which further drives a wedge between him and Berber. The person he is closest to in the family is Orel, but they have quite a weird relationship. He gives Orel terrible advice, which gets Orel into a series of scrapes.
Men and women have only one holy position, and that's called the missionary position.
The missionary position?
Serious ones, which really should result in criminal charges.
Oh, hurry, sir. I'm jonesing. Here.
Hey, I like you, kid. You remind me of a short me.
Clay always manages to pull a few strings, though, to get Orel out of trouble.
Now come over here, son.
Oh, this is jive.
Orel! I think we have a date. In my study.
However, as time goes on, Clay becomes increasingly worse. His drinking and marital problems become increasingly out of hand. It all comes to a head when Clay takes Orel on a hunting trip. He proceeds to drink the whole time, leading to a series of accidents. First, he fatally injures a fellow hunter's dog.
Hunting dogs are just nature's rabbits.
And then he seriously injures his own son. To make matters worse, he has drunk the rubbing alcohol which should have been used to treat Orel's injury.
Hello? Okay, this might sting a little.
Because Clay was so inebriated, he soon blacked out.
I hate you.
Hate away, sister. Hate away.
And spent the whole day sleeping off a hangover, which meant that Orel had to suffer for the whole hellish night and day with a festering injury. He even had to fend off an angry grizzly bear in a terrifying encounter.
Sorry, Mr. Bear, but my dad's a jerk.
When Clay recovers from his hangover, he proceeded to take Orel to a dodgy, no questions asked style of doctor, which further caused problems for his recovery. Orel blamed the series of events on his dad's drinking problem, which he thought made him behave out of character.
You become a bad person when you drink!
But when he asked Berber about this, she said that Clay didn't really change when he was drunk. It was just his true nature coming out. After this, Orel and even Danielle turned against Clay. His monstrous behaviour managed to push away the only two people who cared about him. The incident on the hunting trip confirms that Clay is even worse than Jonas. Whilst Jonas frequently put Rusty in danger, in his own twisted way, he managed to preserve his safety by repeatedly cloning him. It was completely messed up, but it meant that Rusty managed to survive into adulthood, in a manner of speaking. In contrast, Orel could have easily died for reals on the hunting trip, all because of Clay's incompetence. Jonas also managed to forge a tight network with his friends from Team Venture, who managed to support Rusty over the years. In contrast, Clay managed to alienate his wife and his boyfriend with his terrible behaviour. The only positives I have to say about Clay is that he attempted to form a close relationship with his son and to provide him with guidance. He frequently got it wrong, but that could be credited to the twisted moral framework of Moralton and the suboptimal way that Clay himself was raised. I also disagree with Blaberta about Clay's true nature coming out when he drank. I don't think that's the way it works, and I wonder what Clay could have become had he ever sobered up. If you've enjoyed this video, please could you give it a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And now, on with the worst dads of Adult Swim. The Reverend is married to Anya and is the father of Toki, the rhythm guitarist of Death Clock. Whilst he held the title of Reverend, it's debatable as to whether Aslaug ever held a position in the church. The Reverend and his family lived in an abandoned village near Lillehammer. I don't know if he ever had a congregation or if he once had one which subsequently deserted him. Neither he nor Anya ever say anything, they just stare menacingly. As a young adult, Toki ran away from home to the USA, and having found his chosen family with his bandmates, he never looked back. But he was reunited with the Reverend and Anya against his will on a live TV show. And Toki soon sank into a state of shock where he became non-verbal.
Toki hasn't said one word.
Toki is the most innocent and childlike member of Death Clock, and outside of his music, his favourite activities include playing Dance Dance Revolution, caring for small animals, and making model aircraft. It soon became apparent that Toki has missed out on these wholesome pursuits during his childhood, and now he was making up for lost time. Gradually, clues started to emerge about Toki's early life. He had a bizarre phobia of bicentennial quarters.
Oh, well, there the bicentennial quarters on the ground, right there, you know?
Toki has an unnatural fear of bicentennial quarters, no other currency. He just fucking freaks out. I mean,
he had a habit of bossing around people of a lower social status, such as the clocketeers.
And I would like you not to repeat what you sees to anybody's, or else I will have you all killed.
Of course, sire.
Yeah, of course.
And the people who worked in Nathan's office when he briefly held the role of governor of Florida.
Jump out the window! Find me a paperclip! You do what I say or I have you all killed! Now shit your pants!
Toki, your boner is showing.
He also had a close friendship with Roxo, the rock and roll clown.
I do cocaine!
Much to the chagrin of the other members of Death Clock. During a therapy session with Dr. Jonathan Twinklettis, he revealed that he was forced to do back-breaking labour by his parents.
Lots went into a day's works. I was happy. I loved my life. But occasionally, I would make mistakes and has to be punished.
And frequently was confined to a terrifying punishment hole for the most minor of infractions, where his only comfort was his toy clown.
It's me, your old pal, Dr. Roxo!
This explains his love for Dr. Roxo, the rock and roll clown. Toki made peace with his dad just before he died.
Father, I forgive everything you've ever done to me.
But I credit this completely to Toki's kind nature and to the emotional support from his bandmates, as opposed to anything which was done by the Reverend. Interestingly, after the Reverend's death, Toki's behaviour towards Anya changed considerably. He was no longer terrified of her and treated her in the same way as the rest of Death Clock treats their moms. Anya herself also changed. She enjoyed getting a makeover from the other Death Clock moms, and she started to smile. It appears that her previous behaviour, including any mistreatment of Toki, was because of the Reverend's influence, and had the Reverend not been around, Toki's childhood would have been very different. Unlike Clay and Jonas, I can't think of anything positive to say about the Reverend. His remaining part of his son's life could be seen as a good thing. However, it could be just because the Reverend liked using Toki as a source of free labour. Carl is the angry neighbour of Master Shake, Frylock and Meatwad, and he is not a great guy. But when we meet his dad, it is obvious that the apple didn't fall far from the tree. Carl's dad, aka Mr Brutananadeliviski, only made one appearance in Aqua Teen Hunger Force, but he made quite an impact. We got a chance to see what Christmas in the Brutananadeliviski household was like. It was an austere celebration featuring a Christmas tree decorated with beer bottles and cans.
But it's Christmas,
You're
Daddy!
not getting out of this. Put on your work boots and your respirator. I had to pull a lot of strings to get him to hire an 8-year-old.
Young Carl only received one gift that year. Whilst Carl hoped for a new mommy, he only received a small offcut of a Berber carpet, which he hoped to play with, but his dad warned him not to get too attached to it because they needed to boil it down so that they could eat it for Christmas dinner. The depressing spectacle was cut short when the pair had to leave for work in an insulation factory, a dangerous job which required Carl to wear a respirator. Remember that Carl was only 8 and these events took place on Christmas Day. This brief snapshot into Carl's past tells us everything we need to know about his dad. He exhibited the same behaviour as the Reverends. The only difference is Toki grew up to be the mostly kind-hearted member of a really successful rock group, whereas Carl grew up to be Carl. And whilst I can't really credit all Toki's many successes on the Reverend, he is a better kid than Carl, so ultimately the Reverend is kind of a better dad. So let me know what you think. Do you agree with the people on this list? Or are there any worse dads on Adult Swim who should have been called out in this video? If you don't know what to write, please just drop the lyrics of the theme tune to Aqua Teen Hunger Force. If you've enjoyed this video, please drop me a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you're new here, please check out my playlist. I've made a lot of videos about the Venture Bros, plus some other Adult Swim shows which you might enjoy. I'm going to see Death Clock play live next week, so I'm going to post a few videos about Metalocalypse off the back of that, so please stick around for those. Welcome back to all my subscribers. You guys are awesome, and hello to any newcomers. Thank you so much to my channel members. I'm going to give you a shout out in the video's end screen, so please stick around for that. I have 2 levels of membership, the Guild of Calamitous Intent and the Peril Partnership, so please consider signing up for channel membership if you can do, because it really helps the channel. Add me on Blue Sky and add me on Instagram, the link is in my bio. I upload videos every weekend, so unless anything comes up before then, I'll see you next time.